The future of the Sahara Desert. What if one of the harshest, most unforgiving landscapes on Earth is transformed into a lush paradise, bursting with life and wide rivers? While it sounds like science fiction, this remarkable transformation is already underway. Experts from across the globe are working to turn the Sahara Desert into a green wonderland. But what hidden secrets in its past make this vision even possible? And how will this ambitious project shape the future of our planet? Let's uncover the fascinating story of the Sahara's evolution and the groundbreaking efforts to give it a second chance. If you could time travel back 11,000 years, you'd find yourself in a lush Sahara, filled with green forests, grazing animals, thick foliage, and colourful birds. This was an era when the Sahara was unrecognizable compared to today. Back then, the Sahara wasn't a sea of sand, it was a thriving green paradise. Imagine forests so thick you could barely see the sky, rivers carving their way through the land, and animals like elephants and giraffes roaming freely. Even massive lakes like Lake Megachad covered vast stretches of the region. Archaeologists have found plenty of proof: animal bones scattered beneath the sands, fossils of underwater creatures, and even the remains of ancient human settlements. Picture this: carvings on rocks that show giraffes, cattle, and elephants, animals that belong in lush, green environments. But all of that is gone. Now, what if the lifeless Sahara could transform into the lush wonder it used to be, while also addressing our current needs for crop production, carbon absorption, and renewable energy? Keep watching as we explore the future of the Sahara, a vivid snapshot of a world almost too wild to believe. But to begin, let's establish some important context. The Sahara Desert is the world's largest hot desert, stretching across 9.2 million square kilometers, 3.55 million square miles, in North Africa. To put that into perspective, it's roughly the size of the United States. When people think of deserts, the Sahara is usually the first that comes to mind, with its endless golden sand dunes, scorching heat, and vast, barren landscapes. But there's so much more to it than meets the eye. While the Sahara is famous for its sand dunes, they only make up about 20% of the desert. The rest consists of rocky plateaus, gravel plains, dry valleys, and even some mountainous regions. The highest point, Mount Kusi in Chad, reaches over 3,400 meters, approximately 2.11 miles. These dramatic landscapes make the Sahara incredibly diverse and stunningly beautiful. This desert is home to an array of wildlife that's adapted to survive extreme conditions. You'll find camels, fennec foxes, scorpions, and even migratory birds. There are also ancient human settlements and nomadic tribes like the Tuareg, who've thrived here for centuries with their rich traditions and ingenious ways of living. Speaking of history, the Sahara has seen massive transformations over millions of years. Believe it or not, it wasn't always a desert. So what went wrong? The answer is simpler than you think. It was the sun. As far as environmental shifts on Earth are concerned, the sun has been a consistent villain, and it is always aided by the Earth itself. A scientist, Milankovitch, helped put this in perspective when he discovered that the Earth's orbit around the sun, axial tilt, and wobble changes periodically over tens of thousands of years, and that this change disrupts the weather and seasons. This discovery was important because any slight change in the way sunlight is distributed across Earth immediately affects the weather or vegetative conditions on it. These changes birthed the flourishing forests of the Sahara, but they also took them away. Now, let's break down how that works. Every 100,000 years, the shape of the Earth's orbit changes from being nearly circular to being more elliptical. When it does, the difference between the Sun's distance at perihelion, which is the closest point to the Sun, and aphelion, which is the farthest point, becomes greater. But the exact opposite of this occurred about 10,000 years ago during the Holocene epoch. During this time, the Earth's orbit became more circular, so the northern hemisphere, which was closest to the Sun, experienced more sunlight. The temperature became quite warm for longer periods, and the warmth encouraged the growth of vegetation across the Sahara. How? The heat on the land created a pressure difference that drew moist air from the Atlantic oceans. More water evaporating from the ocean into the clouds because of the heat meant more rainfall in the Sahara. Plenty of rainfall meant the gathering of running water bodies that spread across the entire land. But that was not the only change. The wobble of the Earth's axis changed too. This wobble controls the timing of the seasons, and it changes approximately every 26,000 years. Well, this change happened to occur at the same time the northern hemisphere was closest to the Sun. So solar radiation increased again during the summer months, and this also increased monsoonal rains over the Sahara. Thanks to all these orbital and axial conditions, about 10,000 years ago, the Sahara flourished. Rainfall increased, vegetation grew, and large lakes like Lake Chad expanded. The Sahara became a glowing paradise, and humans also settled on it with their cattle, and they all lived happily. But not for long. The lost forest. Around 5,000 years ago, the villain struck. The Milankovitch cycle shifted yet again. Earth's axial tilt decreased, and the precession cycle shifted, making the summers in the northern hemisphere less intense. With weaker solar radiation, the monsoons that had drenched the Sahara weakened. Rainfall became less frequent and could no longer sustain the forest. So, just like that, desertification began. Plants died and rivers dried up, and erosion took over. Then the dust storms began, and without plants to stabilize the soil, they became more frequent. They spread particles into the atmosphere and suppressed rain again. Gradually, forests became grasslands. In turn, grasslands became an arid desert. All this did not happen immediately. It was a slow, drawn-out process that occurred over several millennia. But by around 5,000 years ago, the transformation was complete. The forest was gone, and the hot, harsh desert we know today was born. Humans made it worse too. Their activities, like overgrazing their cattle and deforestation, sped up the desertification process. And when the land became less fertile, they packed up their villages and migrated to more hospitable regions and stayed away. Hundreds of years later, humans returned to use the Sahara to transport goods on camels in and out of northern Africa. But one day, a large bone was discovered buried in those hot sands. And just like that, archaeologists began to dig, and more bones, fossils, and pollen were found. With these new discoveries, scientists and engineers began to see the potential in that vast land. The dead Sahara could be brought to life again. The forest could be rejuvenated and rebuilt, and hundreds of animals would graze just like they had thousands of years ago. They found out that lost paradise could return. But how? Just a quick pause. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to like it, subscribe, and tap that bell for instant updates. The Future of the Sahara. To begin, let's take a short trip into the future of the Sahara with James Duncan as our guide. James Duncan was the first to write down a framework for rejuvenating the Sahara. If the Sahara was irrigated, he thought, the wealth of northern Africa would increase, and Africans would no longer need the white man's ships to export. Agriculture would boom too, and they would no longer need to sell slaves. Duncan's plan was simple, that drought-resistant trees should be planted across the Sahara, which should halt desertification. These trees, he believed, would stabilise the dust, improve soil quality, and even encourage rainfall. It was a good plan, but it failed because there was no modern technology or funding, no advanced irrigation systems to provide water, and no scientific understanding of how ecosystems worked. And of course, his government was not willing to part with the huge sum needed to build technology for this project. His ideas were simply ahead of their time. But not anymore. Technology has grown massively since, and that idea is now being revisited by several top world rulers. It has even developed into full-blown projects with billions of dollars in funding. One of such projects is the Great Wall Project. This Great Wall has nothing to do with China or even BRICS, but everything to do with reviving the green of the Sahara. In fact, it has been called one of the most ambitious environmental projects humanity has ever attempted. In the Sahel region of Africa, experts and natives are planting or building a green wall of trees and vegetation that will stretch 8,000 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide. That's approximately 5,000 miles in length and 9.3 miles in width. Already, many top governments have donated billions of dollars to help it succeed. This wall will cut across Africa from Senegal in the west to Djibouti in the east. It all began in 2007. That year, about 20 African leaders decided they had had enough. The Sahara Desert was spreading its tentacles into their countries and drying up their land. So they sat together in the African Union and decided to address desertification once and for all. What did they decide? They decided to plant trees from Senegal to Djibouti. But how does that help the Sahara? Just like James said, trees increase soil quality and hold down moisture. So experts and local farmers, men and women, went on foot down to the edge of the Sahara, all around the continent, and began digging. They dug holes in the ground and planted seeds in them. Then they made sure to feed these holes with water morning and night. What happened? Slowly, these dry stretches of land began to have green patches. Pictures and videos from around the continent have shown that these patches of green have begun growing and spreading annually. Soon, they would completely cover the land, revive the soil, and create habitats again. In countries like Senegal, nearly 12 million drought-resistant trees have been planted, and in Ethiopia, over 15 million hectares of degraded land beside the Sahara is back to life. It is hard work, but they are not slowing down. It has been over a decade since the first saplings were planted, and the results are great. And what is more, this technique does not seem to have any future risks. How much havoc can tree planting cause? It is a harmless project that just might force the hand of the Sahara and restructure its nature. Many scientists have even predicted a massive change in the Sahara by 2030, just by this project alone. It is no wonder it has attracted so much global attention from international organisations, NGOs, and private investors who are interested in changing the Sahara. The UN Convention to Combat Desertification, for example, and the World Bank's Sahel Initiative have pumped billions of dollars into the GGW to help restore 100 million hectares of Sahara land by 2030. Imagine the dry Sahara becoming a large, fertile land with green vegetation again. But just as these 20 countries are encroaching into the Sahara from its edge, Egypt is taking a whole different route with its plans. They have set up a major project, which everyone calls Egypt's New Delta Mega Project. Egypt has been very aggressive with its plans for the Sahara. Their population is blowing up, and birth restrictions haven't helped at all. They need new land, and it seems they have decided the Sahara is what they need. This project is Egypt's way of expanding into the desert. But how will they do this? By building the largest artificial river in the world. According to written plans, this river is supposed to transform more than 9,000 square kilometers, 3,475 square miles, of desert into fertile farmland. And this is how they plan to do it. The Nile River extends to Rosetta, and Egypt intends to build its artificial river by diverting its water into the man-made bed they plan on digging. This diversion is supposed to cause the water to travel 50 kilometers, approximately 31 miles, along the Mediterranean coast before turning inland and running through underground pipes all the way into the Al Hammam treatment plant. While that is happening, another part of the Nile will be directed upstream to arrive at the same destination. If they succeed, they will reclaim over 2.2 million acres of the desert. This is the second most ambitious project after the Green Wall project. And it just might work. With this flowing water, they would turn the desert into a flourishing agricultural city and expand their country. Many experts think this project has a high chance of success, especially since this is not Egypt's first rodeo. In the 1990s, Egypt launched the Toshka project to cultivate the Western Desert using Nile water. But it failed, so they launched the Al Salam Canal project to reclaim Sinai land for agriculture. With concrete experience, they do not plan to fail this time. In fact, when you read through the plans they have set up to achieve this, you will respect how much planning has gone into this. They have even replaced expensive technical systems with cheaper alternatives. Apart from diverting the Nile, they plan on irrigating many parts of the desert, but they plan to use recycled wastewater. They have also decided to use seawater and have plans to open up desalination plants that would convert the seawater into fresh water for use. But where many experts and scientists are raising alarm is in their plan to extract groundwater to add to the water flow, and we will address why a little later. To power the project, Egypt does not plan on using expensive electricity generators. Instead, they are building solar farms and wind turbines. They also plan on introducing mechanized farming practices and to cultivate only high-value crops that are suitable for Egypt's climate. Crops like wheat, corn, and vegetables. They have already spent billions on this project to wet and irrigate the Sahara, and efforts are already being made to build the artificial riverbed. Imagine all of that water being soaked into the hot sands of the Sahara day and night for months, in addition to the artificial river running amok from the River Nile. Then, when the sun beats down on this moisture and absorbs the droplets, they fall down as rain. Scientists speculate that if that happens, soon a tiny grass will shoot out, and then another and another. And just like that, the Sahara will go from brown to green. Egypt will single-handedly change nature, and other countries will scramble to irrigate and claim land in the desert too. If they do, the Sahara we know now would only be seen in textbooks. But while this change will be such a beautiful development, it might birth future problems. Experts have speculated a depletion in ocean life. The Sahara is an important part of the ocean's ecosystem because the base of the ocean food chain is phytoplankton, which is formed from nitrogen, phosphorus, and trace amounts of iron. Nitrogen and phosphorus are available in the ocean, but iron isn't. Where does the ocean get iron from? From dust blown from the Sahara into the Atlantic Ocean. This dust carries with it enough iron to give the phytoplankton a boost to grow in large masses. In turn, phytoplankton adds oxygen to the water. A large part of the ecosystem in the Atlantic survives from the wind-blown dust off of the Sahara sands. So, if the Sahara becomes a paradise and is covered in trees, the dust will die off, hurting sea life. There is also a deep fear from experts that saving the Sahara might deplete water sources from major rivers and from underground. If the water in this place drops in supply, humans will be in a major disaster. Then there is also the issue of carbon emissions. The processes involved in transforming a desert into a forest, like land clearing and soil disturbance, might release more carbon than is needed in the long run, especially if not managed properly. However, research is currently ongoing to find easy solutions to these problems. Many researchers have even suggested that factory-made waters replace underground water. All that is left is solutions to carbon emissions, then work on the Sahara will explode on a grander scale. If that happens, we will experience a Sahara with birds, animals, and green trees. But even if all human plans fail, according to predictions by scientists, in about 10,000 to 15,000 years, the Earth's axial tilt and orbital precession will align again, and summer monsoons will again increase in the northern hemisphere. When this happens, rainfall would return to the Sahara, and the lost forest would be found. But there is a twist. There is no proof humans will still exist to witness that change. I guess inducing that change is a better option then. What do you think?